Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. Last time I concluded that episode by really imploring you to realize how important HR, power to the people that you hired, and actually shared an example of the HR director for the PF Michigan group here, Maureen Cisco, who's doing a great job. And just it's interesting because I'm as a member of Planet Fitness, but also having some exposure to HR, being a private member of the Detroit Society for HR Management, I can see, just the great job that she's doing. And so, folks, I share these tips. I'm always sharing best practices. I've highlighted PF Michigan Group here on previous episodes, and I continue to highlight them whenever I see best practice opportunities because, when you own between, I'm guessing they should be at club number between 39 and 41 by now. When you own that many locations of a franchise across any industries, across brands, that's very successful. And I think there's certainly lessons to be shared from their success. And so I'm always happy to share some best practices and insights. And so just having HR, particularly having one like an HR director on site is truly an asset to that organization, because there's so many different things an HR person is going to be able to add to the equation. So I told you last time, you may not be able to afford an HR person. You may not even have enough in your mind. You may think, I'm only on 2 facilities. I'm only a general manager here, or I'm a franchisee and I only have 3 locations. Whatever the case may be, you can always benefit. Whenever we're talking about people management, you can always benefit from the insight from an HR professional, a seasoned HR professional. Again, you can find one, you can find a consultant, you can do your research and stuff online. There's wealth of information that way. But also what you can do is, and I didn't mention this last time, but this is a bonus tip. What you can also do is, if you know any HR people, if you have a SHRM or Society for HR Management chapter in your area, reach out to them and network that way. Because HR people, I've found, and I know a number of them, tend to be generous and tend to be have a very giving and generous spirits, and they may be willing to actually meet with you, sit down, and you can pick their brain for lunch or dinner, whatever the case may be. Just make sure you thank them. Make sure you thank them for their time. But that's a way that you can get some assistance. You can meet with someone even for lunch, whatever, and say, hey, I've been struggling with turnover for the last 3 years, and I can't figure out what's going on. Do you mind if I pick your brain over lunch? Something like that. And also, like I mentioned last time, you can reach out to graduate programs, particularly those like MBA with an HR concentration, and sponsor group projects in there where you essentially say, this is my franchise, this is my private gym or studio. This is our situation analysis. These are some of the challenges we're facing, and allow those students to really get to work on solving your problems. And it will be a very eye-opening experience from that respect. So just get some insight from HR. And as I mentioned, this PF Michigan group certainly does a good job with that. And you can see the HR commitment there. And actually, I found an article on PF or Planet Fitness, pffranchisee.org, entitled PF Michigan Group LLC's Planet Fitness Warriors Win Rally for Redford Challenge. So this was an article that appeared, and it's just in the interest of time, I'm going to fly through this because I want to highlight this last paragraph here. And it says, one of PF Michigan Group's core values is people first. We are thrilled to see our managers and employees promoting these values within their surrounding communities. We applaud Karen and her team for their initiative and community outreach, said Pete Hopkins, franchisee for PF Michigan Group LLC, which owns, at the time, they own 27 PF locations in Michigan and Ohio. And as I stated now, this article came out the 9th of November 2016 and by Christy Keith Hoffman. So we're almost 2 years now, and they should be between 39 and 41 clubs by now, so you can see the growth. So just want to share these examples, the importance. Creating a people first culture is in this particular case, but also having HR to help you develop that culture, but also having an HR person or HR insight or presence to be able to help you maintain that type of culture. It's so important, folks. Wanted to share that. I'm going to quickly delve on in here and share with you my most recent, actually this is a 2-part, Rachelle's PF or Planet Fitness adventure to the Wayne, the newest location of Planet Fitness in Metro Detroit here. On August 3rd, I had an opportunity to go to the Wayne, Michigan location and had a blast, folks. And I will tell you something really quickly. In more than 24 years now, 24 years, I did something at that club that I've never done before, ever done before. I purposely, it was at the end of my cardio, the very end of my cardio, I was doing a walk cool down on the treadmill, and I was looking up at the PF TV, and they show videos and there's ads for local businesses and things like that. And so folks, I looked up at that screen and I saw Debbie Gibson, Only in My Dreams. And folks, I have an eclectic taste for music. I love all types of music. And that tends to shock people because I mean, everything from Beethoven to Bon Jovi. I mean, it's just all over the place. And so when I saw that, and I'm a huge fan of 80s music, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, Debbie Gibson, wow, I remember that, Only in My Dreams. Yeah, so I was reminiscing and all that was great. And then I noticed, like, after that, they played Michael Jackson, and I'm sitting here and I noticed a trend. And I'm thinking, okay, at this point I still had my earbuds on. And so I'm thinking, wow, they're playing all this 80s music. This is great. So folks, I took my earbuds out. So I had about another good hour and 15 minutes where I listened to that music. They played that morning exclusively 80s and 90s music. I mean, I looked up one time and I was listening. It was Coolio, Fantastic Voyage. I said, you got to be kidding me. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit. I mean, folks, I jammed my heart out to that music the entire morning. And when I was on the weight machine, this is actually funny, it was at the very end of my workout, because I start with cardio because that's where my passion is. I always tell people, start with where your passion is. Then finish cardio, head on over to the weight machine area. And folks, and I'm hearing Backstreet Boys. I want it that way. And then I said, you know what, at this point, it was time for me to go. I had an appointment in Dearborn at 9:15 and I needed to leave, but great songs kept coming on. And, okay, after the Backstreet Boys, I'm going to leave after this. And then the B-52s came on, Love Shack. I mean, it was just one thing after another. And I said, you know what, I've got to leave. And so the morning was fantastic. Actually, when I pulled up to that particular location, I noticed the curb appeal of that location is really, really nice. Just beautiful. It's like a tan color, just very, very nice curb appeal. And as I was parking my car, so I shut my trunk, got my gym bag out, slung it over my shoulders, and I'm looking at the door over here. And they've got some mirrors too, and not as, it just doesn't seem to be as close perhaps as that 5-mile location in Michigan I told you about, Livonia, Michigan, that I told you about. Not as many windows, but definitely had some windows. And so I slam my thing, put the bag over, and I'm walking and I'm looking at the door. And then I see Erica at the front desk, and she was looking, and then all of a sudden, bam, her head cocked to where I was. And I said, there we go, you go, girl. Had another one watching the parking lot. So it was just fantastic to see. But as I was about to leave, about to get my hydro massage, I'm signing in, and Miss Ashley told me all about the grand opening that was going to happen, and that certainly has already happened now, Wednesday, August 8th. And, bring your friends and family, tell them all about it. And it was just fantastic because I'm about to close a series out next time on sales, the sales advantage. And so she did a good job on selling me the benefits of coming back to this. And so I did, long story short, went back to that particular location, attended the grand opening ceremony. It was nice. They had all these dignitaries from the city of Wayne and Chamber of Commerce people. I mean, it was great. Brian Reef, I saw him from a distance, one of the co-owners of the PF Michigan group. He and his wife, as well as Pete Hopkins, those are the three that own it. But Brian was there and presented that $1,000 check to the Boys and Girls Club of Southeast Michigan, and they were grateful. But it had a great opportunity, and really, really appreciated that, because that's the newest club, and they've got the newest cardio equipment in there. So it's always cool to see the evolution of the club. And certainly at that grand opening, had an opportunity, met Karen. And she was telling me she's been with PF Michigan Group for 10 years. She said she started out in a 7-mile location in Livonia and was just raving about just the growth and the evolution of that particular franchise group, and just Planet Fitness in the area and her growth and development as an employee. So again, this is an HR episode, so I really appreciated that. She had a lot of enthusiasm and was very, very happy. And I thought to myself, 10 years, that is an extremely long time for someone to be, particularly in the fitness industry. So that certainly spoke volumes about her as a person, but also PF Michigan Group as an employer and a place to work. So wanted to share that, folks. But moving on here to some other HR topics here, we talk about the change in the fitness industry, and I told you things are always changing and evolving, and certainly HR, people management, is certainly no exception to that. And I wanted to share this with you really quickly. Club Industry Magazine on July 20th Andy Berg had an article here where he talked about Equinox, which I told you is the high-end fitness brand, and I'm actually excited. Detroit is going to be getting one, and Bloomfield Hills here coming up here in the next several months. And Soul Cycle Open Talent Agency. So this is the article really quickly. Fitness instructors are in high demand, and so much so that a pair of companies think trainers might benefit from a dedicated talent agency. According to Fast Company, Soul Cycle and parent company Equinox are teaming up on a joint talent management agency to serve fitness stars. A press release states that the agency is backed by William Morris Endeavor and will represent leading market-defining fitness talent. The goal is to develop social media personas and score large-scale sponsorship deals. We are now poised, quote here, we are now poised to offer our star employees an exclusive monumental opportunity, said Equinox Group Executive Chairman and Managing Partner Harvey Spavek in a statement. With our support, guidance, and representation, our top talent can meaningfully grow their personal brands, develop key partnerships, and ultimately generate additional income. Equinox is known for its ranks of influential, charismatic fitness instructors. A pilot is currently underway, and the agency is slated to roll out in phases. Now, how awesome is that? Fitness trainers are going to be represented by a talent agency. I think that is fantastic from a marketing standpoint, but also helping them to negotiate just an awesome pay and things like that. That agency, having that agency representation is going to be so beneficial. But who would have ever thought? Again, fitness trainers having their own talent management agencies, that's just fantastic. And folks, I want to talk here for a minute about recruiting. And so again, they're going to be branding, helping their fitness trainers brand themselves in terms of getting jobs, getting opportunities, and things like that. But I want to spend a second here, a few minutes actually, talking about the importance of recruiting. So we talked about Jim Collins last couple of times. Good to great, good to great. Great content in that particular book. But wanted to share, and actually I received Human Resources Executive, see, a member of Detroit Shern from 2012 to 2015, and I still keep my hand and certainly want to always stay on top of the trends and things in HR as well. And so there was this fantastic article here in the May 2018 edition of this particular magazine, and the title of it is Quality Quotient by Carol Patton. And it talks about recruiting. And folks, really quickly here, in the interest of time, I can't go into too much detail on this, but Ally Financial, the article starts out, a bank holding company in Detroit hires 2,300 people annually, many of whom are in entry-level positions, are considered high risk for turnover, says Kathy Patterson, the company's CHRO, Chief Human Resources Officer, is what that stands for. Okay, several years ago, HR implemented a new assessment tool and process to measure quality of hire during the hiring process. Since then, Patterson says involuntary turnover has dropped by roughly 25%. Your talent base defines your competitive advantage, she says. This is the whole series here is on the value of competitive advantage and the competitive analysis. All right, really quickly here, let me re-quote her again since I just interrupted her quote. Your talent base defines your competitive advantage, she says, adding that Ally supports almost 8,000 employees. It helps shape your culture, and the amount of money that's lost by not paying close attention to talent seems a little negligent. Okay, quickly going here, I want to talk about some of the things really quickly, what they do. Applicants pursuing entry-level jobs in collections, customer service, and sales at Ally must complete a 40-minute online personality test as part of the application process that predicts their job success, Patterson says. The next step involves a pre-screen interview where recruiters or HR business partners assess the candidate's motivation and abilities and provide a realistic snapshot of the role, including the good, bad, and ugly, Patterson says. As soon as we did this realistic job preview, we quickly increased our retention rate, she says. It was night and day, and we hear from our leaders that they were getting higher quality candidates. Between 90 and 120 days after candidates are hired, HR sends their supervisors a short survey asking if the candidates met their expectations or if they select them again. New hires are also surveyed mainly about their selection and onboarding experience. HR evaluates the data in aggregate with retention rates, engagement scores, and performance evaluations, searching for trends. When misfits occur, she says, HR business partners work with supervisors to diagnose what went wrong and identify course corrections. So again, just quickly highlighting some of the things that you can do. There's certainly, you don't have to do that, but just in a nutshell, just pay very close attention to the folks that you're recruiting to your particular facilities. Because as I stated last time, who you hire will make or break your success. I mean, if you're struggling, again, with negative reviews and you're struggling with turnover and all of that, you got to get to the source. You got to dig deep. get to the source of the problems, but recognize you got to get the right people on your bus, as Jim Collins says. And there's ways to screen for that. There's ways to test for that. There's actually an entire field. A good friend of mine who went to Northwestern, actually, she is an expert in that predictive analytics and does that here locally for one of the big three automakers. But there's a whole field around that predictive analytics and hiring and determining who will be successful at your particular organization. So Ally Financial here in Detroit, that's just another example. And as you just heard me allude to, the type of reviews that employees are giving your particular facility, your particular franchise, your private studio or facility is can make or break your success. And again, this isn't a marketing episode, but folks, let me tell you, if you go to Glassdoor.com, you go to Indeed.com, and you're looking at your particular franchise, you can look at it as a whole, but you can put the city, current and former employees at all different levels and all different roles can put the city and state of where their facility is, and it just, you can see some of those things where they're just saying these things, it's just negative publicity. And I told you in the marketing series a few months ago, negative publicity, particularly on job search sites, is never a good thing. And so this is another article here that appeared in Human Resources, another edition of Human Resource Executive. This one appeared in April 2018, really quickly, behind the curtain. So it talks about this whole thing of really paying attention to online reviews and the type of feedback, what people are saying about your facility. Because folks, when people see that, they're going to either become interested or lose interest really quickly. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this, but wanted to share here. It says HR professionals can use negative reviews posted on online job sites to make positive workplace changes. Okay, really quickly. With negative reviews, we find that often employees need to let off some steam. He says, he being Scott Redfern, who is Executive VP of Global HR at Posi-TIPS. Okay, so we find that often employees need to let off some steam, he says. We step back and look for overall trends to determine whether there is some underlying issue that we should be sensitive to. Most companies receive negative reviews, whether they admit it or not. Okay, quickly skipping some paragraphs. Ouch, still negative comments should never be ignored and must be routinely monitored since they can help improve your workplace culture, people, and practices. Typically, 4 HR staff members at Posi-TIPS monitor job sites for employee reviews, good or bad. For comments where a response is required, one is always given, either by HR or a representative of the department involved. Redford says those responding always thank the individuals for posting their comments, correct false assumptions, and encourage employees who posted the comments to follow up by discussing their issue directly with an employee such as a supervisor. But some employers simply look the other way and ignore negative feedback. Bad idea. Redfern says negative employee comments are not only accessible to the employer, but also to thousands, even millions of other workers and potential candidates. This feedback is visible for job candidates that you're trying to hire, Redfern says. If you don't stay on top of it, don't respond, it gets to be more of a daunting task to manage. Okay, moving on here, make no mistake, online reviews can either attract job candidates or push them elsewhere. Glassdoor, for instance, sees an average of 50 million unique users each month. Okay, another job site, skipping down, Kununu, also invites employee feedback. Out of its nearly 600,000 reviews on 300,000 U.S. companies during the past 2 years, 42% of companies fell below 3 stars out of 5, according to a report released in February, says Moritz Koth, the company's CEO. So folks, you got to pay attention to what reviews are saying, good, bad. There's a lot of people that are now looking, their job prospecting, their job hunting, they're looking at these sites to determine the good and the bad. And certainly you can drill down at the local level. You do not want to see people posting negative reviews on your particular facility itself. Yes, you got your Yelp. Yes, you got your Google. I've talked about those in detail here on past episodes, but just from an employee, from an HR standpoint, there are sites that prospective employees can go to and review and see exactly what's going on. Yes, at the franchise level, but also for private gyms and things like that. It's just so important to really stay on top of those things. And folks, lastly, as I wrap up my little conversation here about HR, Incentive Magazine. So essentially, really quickly here, this is another magazine I subscribe to where it talks about motivation, but also employee rewards, travel, spot awards, gift cards. There's just different things like that and what motivates people. But there was a recent article here entitled Choosing the Right Reward. To power an incentive program, you need rewards that are highly desirable, by Leo Jacobson. And so this appeared, the summer 18 edition, and I was actually reading this and wanted to share this one of the last key points here. Under the recognition is vital section, it says, there's no replacement for authentic praise and recognition of good works, added McWilliams, who was quoted ultimately here earlier in the article. So just thanking people. You're doing a good job. You want to keep people, you want to turn your turnover around, treat people right. Give positive feedback. Let people know. No, none of us is perfect. We make mistakes. We're particularly if someone's new or whatever. But just tell people, hey, I appreciate all you do, and tell people that regularly. You're doing a good job. When a member says something good about that employee, let that employee know. You know, whatever the case may be, just everyone loves positive feedback, so don't hesitate. Again, from a magazine that specializes in incentivizing motivation among employees and other groups and segments, just tell people thank you. I mean, it's just that simple. You're doing a good job, bottom line. Okay, so the $5,000 trip to Tahiti for that particular person's family that you can't afford to send them on, is many cases not as powerful as thank you. Hey, you're doing a good job. I appreciate all you do. Bottom line, it's just that simple. So folks, this has been a fun series. HR. I could go on, and I've shared some tips. I've shared some best practices. I've shared some thoughts with you. And so just really get on board with getting some HR presence and just some HR insight in terms of your business strategy and what you are doing. It doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit, YMCA. Okay, HR, you're talking about people management, you need to have an HR mindset, even HR mind, to really help you develop some strategies, procedures, and policies to help you succeed and be successful, but also to protect your organization and your facility, whatever the case may be. And just that you can get some best practices of things that you wouldn't normally get otherwise. Just an example here really quickly. At the PF Michigan Commerce Club, my own club. Okay, Gabby, Wednesday, July 25th. So I'm signing in for the hydro massage before I leave. And she says, Rachelle, today's my last day. I was like, what's going on? So long story short, she told me this is my last day at this club. I'm actually going, I've been in training, and I would have never guessed that. She did a fantastic job. Just great attitude, 6 o'clock in the morning, did a great job. I'm going to the Lake Orion, Michigan club, which is going to be another newer club here that's opening up. I'm going to be going to that club. I've been in training here. And so she was a fantastic fit in terms of the culture of our country club location, but just great fit, great fit, bright, well-spoken, always a great attitude. And so certainly was sad to see her go. But that's an example of having an HR director where you can essentially train people in anticipation of a new club opening and things like that, and get folks ready and prepped. So you're not putting brand new people in new clubs and things like that. So she got some experience and some exposure. So that was great to see. And so folks, this conversation of HR has been fun, and I'm going to be delving into the sales advantage here next time. But I'm going to close this episode out here really quickly. As it's going to tie into the sales that I'm going to be discussing next time. 2018 Club Industry Magazine rankings, folks, they are out. Number 1, LA Fitness. LA Fitness. And you talk about that. We're a very profit-driven company. LA Fitness, number 1. Number 2, Lifetime Fitness. Same. Very profit-driven. Okay. And they actually incidentally opened their largest club in the U.S., which is in Charlotte, North Carolina. 320,000 square feet. Is that not massive? 320,000 square feet. Number 3, 24-Hour Fitness, another corporate chain, but also they've got been around a long time. They've also got some franchises as well. Okay, number 4, Equinox Holdings. Number 5, Club Corporation. They own a number of corporate facilities and gyms and hotels and things like that. Number 6, Planet Fitness, which moved up from spot number 7 last year. Planet Fitness went from 7 to 6 from 2017 to 2018. All right, number 7, Town Sports International. They own some sports clubs, particularly on the East Coast. Number 8, the Bay Club Company. Number 9, Export Fitness, which is also known as Capital Fitness. And number 10, remained at number 10, Crunch Fitness. So folks, next time, I look forward to sharing some highlights, tips, best practices on the sales advantage. The sales advantage. Sales is so important, because you can have the best marketing in the world, but if you're falling flat on the sales execution, it can truly hurt your business and your organization. And I always want you to be successful. So folks, until next time, I look forward to the next time. And so until then, make it a wonderfully fit day.